Good evening, everyone. I'm Daryl Steinberg. I am your mayor. Welcome to another edition of our Facebook Live. We are talking, or at least I'm talking, and hopefully presenting good, solid information to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 o'clock. It's a beautiful Friday evening in Sacramento, and I want to thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. Happy May Day. I want to talk about May Day in just a few moments and what it represents to the people of not just Sacramento, but of this country. But I want to begin with some good news that I heard late in the day today that tells me we have done the right thing. Dr. Bielenson, our Director of Health and Human Services with the county, informed me that we just found out that among the 40 largest metropolitan areas in the country, that is regions that includes beyond Sacramento County, but mostly Sacramento County, for populations over 1 million, that Sacramento ranks first in the country in terms of the least number of infections, COVID infections per capita. Number one. That is really a bit of good news. It shows that what we did and what we continue to do in terms of practicing what the scientists and the medical professionals have told us have kept more people healthy, avoided more people getting sick, and avoided more death. The question now is, where do we go from here? And I know, and we talked about it on Wednesday night, and we will continue talking about it, that people are understandably anxious, many people are frustrated, and many people are really at the end of their rope when it comes to the economic challenges that they face in either the need to go back to work, the need to open back up that business, the need to resume some kind of economic activity so that you can pay your bills. And the toughest question for me is, if I'm at the end of my rope and I cannot wait another couple of weeks, what do I do? There is not a perfect answer for that. I can tell you that everyone from the governor to the county and all the health directors are aware, more than aware, are sensitive to the fact that while we are trying to protect public health, there is also a public health epidemic that has every bit of potential if we don't get people back to work, because we can't continue with the status quo for a lot longer. The truth of the matter is, and the good news is that things are changing. The governor has promised that over the next couple of weeks that there are going to be changes in the state stay-at-home order. The county made some modest changes here just a couple of days ago, effective today. By May the 22nd, which is when the county order expires, I predict that there are going to be some significant changes that are going to allow us to resume some retail businesses, some childcare businesses, some manufacturing businesses, and hopefully either then or soon thereafter, we'll be able to experience some form of in-restaurant dining. We'll be able to experience some form of being able to exercise or work out in our favorite fitness studio. That we will begin in the month of May to transition back, but we must do so, of course, in a safe way. It must be done gradually, and it must be done with the advice of people who have more expertise than you and I when it comes to the public health risks of moving too fast. And so it's in that context that I want to express to you how upset I was today, and really upset about the protests at the state capitol. First of all, I will state the obvious. I not only respect, but I honor the right of people to protest. That is the American way. It's what distinguishes us from totalitarian countries. It's the bedrock of our democracy. But it doesn't mean that any right is absolute. And it doesn't mean that there aren't safe ways to protest here. And so when people gather at the Capitol, They get out of their cars and they amass in the hundreds on the steps of the Capitol. That is plain irresponsible, especially when there is an alternative. And that alternative is to protest by driving around the Capitol, honking your horn, making sure on the passenger side that the passenger puts out the sign that says whatever your message is. There are many ways to do this, but when people gather in the way they gathered at the Capitol today, they are not only putting themselves at risk, they're putting each other at risk, but more importantly, they are putting all of us at risk, because those people who are at the Capitol today are then going to go out into our community in various ways. And if they are carriers of the virus, or if they get the virus because they were in close proximity to somebody carrying the virus, that puts all of us at risk. And it especially angers me in light of how many people are making genuine economic sacrifices to actually respect the public health order. Think about that small business that is tempted to open up again, but isn't doing so because they respect that they not only have a responsibility to themselves and their families, but to everybody else they come in contact with, and thus are holding out. I think about the food nutrition workers that I honored today who are putting their lives on the line and who are practicing physical distancing and are providing desperately needed food to Sacramento families. They largely have not gotten sick. Well, now this kind of mass gathering, for whatever purpose, puts those people at risk and many others. And it just plain isn't right. Here's what we know about the science. We know that we are all committed to bringing back industry, to bringing back small business, and doing so in a way where people continue to practice physical distancing with the right kind of protective equipment and other precautions. What we know is that mass gatherings are the single biggest risk we face in spreading the virus and the disease. Have we forgotten what happened in New Orleans just a couple months ago, where they attribute Mardi Gras to the spike in infections in New Orleans? Have we forgotten about all the stories we've read about families that had reunions back in February or March, or businesses and industries that had conventions? Those mass gatherings led to widespreading of the virus. And so I just am speaking out because there is a way to protest. There's something in the law when it comes to freedom of speech called time, place, and manner. That old saying that most everyone knows, whether you're a lawyer or not, that you can't scream fire in a crowded theater. What that means is that your right to free speech is not absolute. If it runs up against putting my life in danger because you are either literally threatening another person or your actions are threatening the health of another person, it just isn't right. And so in our community, I know people are getting frustrated. I also know that things are going to move very quickly to begin returning to some normalcy. But in the meantime, our police officers are out there, the CHP officers are out there, and I know they did their very best to disperse this, and this cannot continue. So now that I got that off my chest, let me move to something a little bit more positive. I said today is May Day, and May itself is a packed month. May Day and the May month is a festival, of course, for flowers and warm weather. It's also a day observed all over the world to honor and uphold the rights of working people. It's also Mental Health Awareness Month. It's Bike Month. And it's when we in Sacramento hold what we call our big day of giving to support our community-based organizations, our arts organizations, and our charitable organizations. And it's also the month when we honor all of our mothers. Let me begin with our workers. In this country, the observance of May Day as a workers' holiday has its origins in the 19th century struggle to establish an 8-hour workday. It's particularly appropriate that we observe it this year with heightened interest to honor all of the essential employees, as I talked about a moment ago, who go to work every day to feed us and take care of us when we are sick, to deliver our mail, and to continue to construct affordable housing and our other downtown and community office buildings. I think it is time for us to think long and hard about the millions of people in our city and our state and our nation who have lost their jobs due to the coronavirus shutdown, and the real economic hardship that many are facing because of our justified government actions to protect the public health. I am spending most of my time now working with my colleagues on the city council, working with the city staff, working with the community to figure out how we take that $89 million of federal stimulus money and have the greatest impact on people who are hurting in the short term, but also how we use that money as a springboard to ensure that we grow our economy so that as people have to transition from one area of employment to another, either because of the coronavirus or for any other reason, that we are able to have a community and an economy that continues to thrive, for it was thriving prior to the last 5 weeks. And we intend to regain our momentum, not just on behalf of our city as a city, but on behalf of our people. Every day my office gets calls from people who are desperate for help. And believe me, we are desperate to help you. We continue to follow, of course, the county public health department in terms of when it is safe to open again. But believe me, I am pushing and I am asking questions to make sure that we can return to as many industries, as many businesses, as many jobs as possible, as soon as possible. In the meantime, if you are having trouble accessing unemployment benefits or getting help for your small business, call 211 or 311 or any of the resources that I have listed in my engagesac.org website or any of the city websites, and we will put you in touch with a live person to try to help you out. We put every resource we know of on our site to help you navigate the process of accessing the considerable help that's available through the state, federal government, our local governments, and our privately raised philanthropic effort, Donate for Sacramento. If you are able, I would encourage you to please give to Donate for Sacramento. We have given out hundreds of $1,000 grants to small businesses. We have given out hundreds of grants, $500 grants to struggling families. We have provided 200 meals every single day through Loaves and Fishes for our unsheltered population, people who continue to live in tent encampments. We are paying for food distributed by the food bank and funding outreach in all kinds of areas. But we're running out of money. We spend over $1 million of our 1.2. So please give generously to Donate for Sacramento, and we'll be able to get out more help to small businesses, to nonprofit organizations, and to people and families who need it. May also happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month and Bike Month, both of which could not come at a more compelling time. This stay-at-home order and the threat of the virus has challenged our collective and our individual mental health in a significant way. I know I've talked a lot about this issue in my Facebook Live broadcast, and I want to do so a little bit more tonight. Improving our system for providing mental health care has been part of my life's work. As you know, when I was in the legislature, I wrote the Mental Health Services Act, the tax on millionaires that generates $2.4 billion a year in California, and tens of millions of dollars for mental health services within the county of Sacramento. When I left the legislature, I founded the independently operated Advocacy Institute in my name, which advocates for systemic improvements in our mental health system. This week, I signed a letter to the governor proposing steps that could be immediately taken to boost our state's ability to help the growing number of people who are facing mental health struggles during this pandemic shutdown. Our suicide prevention and state warm lines, which are mental health telephone resource lines, have been overwhelmed by a huge upsurge in calls. The peer-run Warm Line, run by the Mental Health Association in San Francisco with its statewide reach, is logging up to 274 calls a day, about twice as many as usual, and far more than 160 calls a day that it was designed to handle. I encouraged the governor in my letter this week to expand the new California Health Corps to include a new mental health corps of people to respond to those needing help. I urge the state to increase its support to suicide crisis and warm lines by $7 million. That amount of money would double their capacity. We could also contract with innovative organizations like the Trauma Resource Institute to train lay people in techniques to help communities cope with stress and trauma. For around $1 million, the Institute estimates it could train 1,000 people in a short period of time. I believe these efforts could be paid for by FEMA disaster funding or potentially through the Mental Health Services Act, the 2004 initiative, which again, I was honored to author. If you are looking for help now, you need to talk to somebody. Again, visit my website, engagesac.org, where we have listed all sorts of mental health resources. Of course, mental health is about more than getting professional help. It's also about living a healthy life. It's also about having connection. It's also about reaching out and having people reach out to you. And getting outdoors is great for improving mental health. It's a beautiful time of year, even if, like me, you have bad allergies. We can't walk together in large groups right now, but we can still walk on our own or with one friend, as long as you're 6 feet apart, in this beautiful weather, and add to our miles for a good cause. The National Alliance for Mental Illness, or NAMI, will hold its annual walkathon on May the 30th. Usually this 5K event is held in Land Park, and I rarely, if ever, miss it. But this year, I'll be walking around my neighborhood in the Pocket on May 30th, and I would encourage you to do the same to help raise funds for free mental health services in our community. You can sign up by going to the website, NAMIWalks.org. That's NAMIWalks, NAMIWALKS.org. May is also Bike Month, when many of us get challenges to leave our cars in the driveway and or bike to work. The Sacramento Area Council of Governments runs a May is Bike Month challenge where people keep track of their bike miles. The challenge kicks off tomorrow at 9 a.m. on Instagram.live. Go to May is Bike Month, at May is Bike Month, for an official kickoff message and a chance to win a big prize, a pair of May is Bike Month socks. Now, who wouldn't want that as a prize? And don't worry, if you don't have the social media, they'll be emailing the challenge too. So go to that website. You can log your trips. It's a lot of fun. Whether you're a walker, whether you're a biker, get outdoors this weekend. Just do so in a safe way. And if you can, wear a mask. It doesn't hurt to wear a mask. It's that additional protection that may make a difference. For the nonprofit groups and arts organizations in Sacramento, May is the most important month of the year for fundraising. We will hold what's called the Big Day of Giving again on May the 7th. And it's more important than ever to give if you are able. Our nonprofits and our arts organizations have seen their revenue dry up for obvious reasons. Nobody is performing, at least in the traditional way, and in-person events are canceled. It's going to be many months, unfortunately, before those events can resume normally. We don't expect large theater performance like the Music Circus or the ballet back until the wintertime, we hope. These organizations don't operate with big cushions, and there are a lot of organizations, even smaller than those, that really are having a hard time. So again, bigdayofgiving.org, and contribute if you can, so that the nonprofits you love, the cultural institutions that you've come to rely on and that so enrich our life in the city are still here when we come out of the pandemic shutdown. One good thing, many good things that we have seen over these weeks, but one is the creativity that people are showing as they find different ways to adapt. This includes all the performers and the arts organizations, the fitness professionals, and the spiritual leaders that are finding ways to inspire and entertain online through streaming services. Tonight and tomorrow, for example, you can watch a movie through the Sacramento French Film Festival, take an online yoga class, watch a performance by the Sacramento Theater Company or B Street Theater, participate in a day-long meditation retreat, or support local makers through the River City Shop in Place Marketplace, and so much more. You could also take some time this weekend to think about what you're going to do next Sunday, because it's Mother's Day. Monday, I want to get back to talking in more detail about our emerging strategies around bringing back this economy, around businesses, around jobs, about the many ways we plan to train people for new industries, including how to create our own new cohort of contact tracers, which is going to be a crucial way of reopening more broadly. And I want to tell you that May is not only a month for what I described a moment ago in terms of honoring workers, in terms of mental health and Bike Month and several other commemorations I haven't mentioned. May is also the month when we begin to come back. And we understand, I do, I'm feeling it, not my own stress, because I can deal with that. I'm feeling your stress. I'm listening to the plight of the people who were living with limited means before this started, and now don't know how they're going to pay that back rent, even if they aren't paying rent currently. The small business owners who don't know how they're going to catch up, even if they're foregoing paying for the expenses of their business now. I feel that pain. And I know it is my responsibility, not alone, but it is our responsibility, every one of us in positions of leadership and responsibility, to respond with everything that we have. And that's what we are trying to do, whether it's food distribution, whether it's stepping up the first small business loan program before anyone else even got started, whether it is the way we are beginning, by the way, to gain some momentum in terms of this motel homeless strategy. We are now close to 300 people indoors and plans to lease more motels. And the numbers keep growing. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And yet our work together to help those who are going to continue to face challenges, even as we move into this new period, I know is going to be immense. It's going to be enormous, but we are all up to the challenge. And if we live by the belief and the value that we do everything we can to ensure that we leave nobody behind, we may not rescue everybody, but we will help many more people. And that's the spirit. That's the Sacramento spirit. That's what I wake up thinking about and working on and working towards every single day. And I know I'm not alone, because all of you are doing the same thing in big and small ways. Have a great weekend. Please stay safe. Please stay connected, even from a distance. And please do not give up hope. Take care, everybody.